And welcome to the second podcast of Jono Talks. We are here today with Matthew Horrigan. He is a martial artist who has represented Australia overseas in Taekwondo, despite being only 19 years of age. He has won many individual accolades, and dare I say, is not someone to cross in any way. Welcome to the podcast, Matthew.
Thanks for having me, Jono.
Mate, let's get straight down to it. What did you think of the Conor McGregor and Aldo fight?
It was a bit short-lived, but it was quite interesting. I'm a Conor fan, so I was happy with the end result, although I'd rather have seen a couple of rounds go by.
Yeah, it's interesting, like in the lead up to that, because Aldo pulled out of the first fight, and Conor took the Mendes fight on 2 weeks short, 2 weeks notice. Yeah. But it was good. It was good seeing Conor. Like now, he's like a huge star of the UFC now, and he's really good at like getting into the opponent's head, like before he's like actually doing the fight.
Yeah, he's good with his words. He likes to try and get under the skin of his opponent. And I mean, he's only had, I think yesterday was his seventh fight in the UFC. So
yeah,
he's relatively inexperienced in the UFC, although he seems to be doing pretty well. I like his attitude. He seems to be, whilst arrogant, he does back it up through his fighting, but he's also respectful. After the fight, he shows respect to the opponent.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, he terms himself as Mystic Mac. I don't know, like, he kind of predicts the shots.
Calls the fight before it happens, and so far he seems to have nailed.
Yeah, because I think, for people who don't know, Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, which I believe is the fastest title fight knockout in UFC history for a title fight anyway. I think the second fastest was Ronda Rousey in 14 seconds.
Oh, it was, something like that.
14, yeah. 15. But it's interesting because I was watching an interview with Conor when he was starting out, and he was 4-1, and he's really confident. He was like, I guarantee I'm going to be the world champion. Like he just has so much confidence. It's really reminiscent of Muhammad Ali, in my opinion. Just his confidence. He doesn't seem to show nerves. Like, I don't know if you're like a fan of boxing in particular, but Mike Tyson was, had that kind of like ferocious approach to the ring.
Yeah.
But afterwards, when his career ended, he's one of the most ferocious people. But when his career ended, he actually admitted that he was very nervous, and that the art of doing a sport is that you hide your nerves. So I don't know, do you think Conor's hiding these nerves, or do you think that's how he is?
No, you always get nervous before a fight. Doesn't matter, who it's against or where it is, or the level of the fight. It's just something that's always going to happen. It's a natural response. But
yeah,
the ability to cover up and mask. I mean, also he's an experienced fighter. He's 27 years old. Conor McGregor. He's done it a lot of times before, so he knows what he's doing. He's been in the situation before.
Yeah.
And he seems to be able to mask it well, and he's relaxed. He seemed very relaxed in the ring.
Oh yesterday. Yeah, he seems so loose. Because did you watch? I don't know if you watched the UFC videos leading up to it, but he was talking about like movement drills that he
does a lot of movement drills. Yeah,
it's really interesting. Like I don't think a lot of fighters, because he hired a movement coach. I don't know if that's a common.
I'm not sure how common it is. It's a very important facet to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Being able to, I mean, his moving is second to none, really, from what I've seen. He's able to avoid significant strikes from the other opponent, and he seems to be able to move in and out, break up his distance, and get inside and outside without them sort of being able to tell where he's going to go.
Yeah, I saw this UFC video where he was not sure if you've seen it. He was knocking like they had like candles set up, and he was extinguishing them with just his force, like his power, just like his punches, his kicks. So that was actually one of his training methods. It's interesting when I watch him though. He doesn't seem to show any nerves at all. Like, he just seems there for the moment. As a fighter yourself, how do you deal with nerves before a fight?
Oh, I try and mask them as best as I can. And everyone copes in different ways. So, I try, I've got a playlist, I listen to music, and I stretch, and I just try and stay as relaxed as I can. So, pre-fight, I'll have a a playlist where I get sort of a music that'll get me pumped up
Yeah.
to a certain degree. But you know, then I'll walk out and I'll just stretch and try and stay as calm and relaxed as possible. And I don't try and intimidate the opponent or anything. I just I stay to myself, just stay inside a bit. I mean, almost a bit like Jose Aldo was yesterday. I don't try not to show any emotion at all. And once you step into the ring, once the referee starts the fight, it's all the nerves just vanish. You're in that moment. It's you and the other guy. Nothing else is important. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, do you reckon you would have started training in UFC if it was more popular? Because I know you started out in Taekwondo. How old were you when you started out in Taekwondo?
I was in grade prep when I was 5 or 6, I think, when I started Taekwondo.
Yeah, so you've been doing it for a while, man. So
I started fighting, I think, when I was about 10 or 11, though. So I didn't actually. I was just doing your basic Taekwondo up until I was probably, I think, 11 or 12.
Yep.
When I started fighting or sparring. So yeah.
Do you think you would have got involved if mixed martial arts was popular back then, or do you
I would have considered it, but I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. It's one of those things that I could have gone either way. Yeah, I love Taekwondo, so I can't see myself ever switching to anything else. But yeah.
Absolutely. And what kind of music would you listen to before a fight?
It varies really. There's always new stuff that comes out. I've got my old faithfuls and stuff. I have some of it like a more hip hop type regime, but then I also go into a more hard rock and even punk rock sometimes. It varies.
Yeah.
Depending on what I feel like listening to on the day.
Because that's such an important thing. Like not even with fighting, just just like school exams, just like nerves can play a big part. Like one of the things is, as well as preparing for the fight, like you're preparing for the moment as well. So you've got to be like mentally strong. Because Jose Aldo, I was watching that fight, and we were just talking about it before. He was kind of really within himself. I'm not sure if he does that for every fight. But he was kind of head down. He didn't really look like he was embracing the moment like Conor was. Do you reckon that played a part? Do you reckon that plays a part in any fights? Is it better to be more extroverted like Conor is, or it depends?
I think it depends on the person you are. So, as I said before, me personally, I like to stay quiet within myself. I don't like to show any emotion at all. I mean, you're always like, you want to live in the moment. It'd be like, running out on grand final day at the G. You want to, experience, take it all in because you might not ever get that opportunity again. But I like to just sort of just keep as relaxed as I can, and I don't like to, go out and sort of eye down my opponent or stare down my opponent anything.
Has any opponent done that to you?
Yeah, in the past, they always, they look at you and they try and get under your skin and unravel you, but you just try not to take any notice of it, really. I mean, there's some people who are just arrogant fighters, and other people are just more calm.
They often talk about any kind of martial art as being really good for your self-esteem, like as well as like what you learn physically. How exactly does that translate, like mentally? Like, because I always hear, it's really like recommended, especially amongst, because like at DLAR they used to, or where we went to school, we had like people come in just to teach us like how to protect ourselves, basically. Like how does learning a martial art help with your self-esteem?
Well, I find it's very healthy for your discipline, for one. So you become quite a disciplined individual, and you're more down to earth. I'm personally more down to earth from it. So, and I'm able, whether this is from Taekwondo or not, but I'm able to let things go and look at the bigger picture and see that some things don't matter as much as you make them out to be, or along those lines, and just more enjoy life. you know.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you went to the UFC event in Australia?
Yeah, the UFC 193 in Melbourne.
193, yeah. How was that? Did you like it?
I loved it. It was different. It's something like I've never been to before. So whilst I watch it, you know, when it's on TV, but it's they put on a good show, definitely, and it was loud. It was, you know, in your face. I love the crowd. The atmosphere was fantastic.
So how many people was it again?
I think there was around about 60,000.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure on the whole number, but yeah.
Yeah, it was apparently the biggest stadium event in UFC history.
Yeah, I think they attracted the largest crowd to ever have seen the UFC. I mean, it helped it was at Etihad, which has a large capacity. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I believe Conor McGregor wants to do an event at Crow Park. So I don't know if you know that stadium. It's in Ireland.
I'd assume so, yeah.
But apparently it holds like 100,000 people. That'd be crazy if we saw. Do you want to see a Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor rematch?
I do. I'd like to see, because Jose Aldo has been unbeaten for 10 years prior to this. He was an undisputed champion, so it'd be interesting to see how he prepares and how he actually goes into a rematch now that he's been beaten.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see a rematch, definitely.
As would I, but as we know, UFC is a business basically. I think I don't know. Do you know Frankie Edgar?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Frank. Yeah, he knocked out Mendes in the first round, who was someone Conor fought. So apparently, and there's also the other problem of Conor making weight. We were discussing this before, how Conor McGregor is 5'9", and Jose Aldo is 5'7". And one of the important things about fighting is not just the actual fight itself; it's the actual weight cut. So, and I know. So, what weight do you fight in normally, Matthew?
I fight under 80 kilograms. That's my normal division. Although it would vary between that, and I would look at attempting to get down to under 74 kilos in the future as well. Yeah.
So, what happens when you're cutting weight? Do you have like a coach, or do you go about it your own way? Do you get advice? Or?
I've always just gone about it my own way. I guess at a more professional level, you'd get someone in maybe to you know, go to the dietitian, for example, see someone who would help you drop that weight. But for me, Epsom salt baths, like hot baths to sweat, going in a sauna, you know, just training hard, working up a sweat, putting lots of layers on when you're training, sweating out through jacket and everything. And then obviously diet's the most important part of that. Yeah.
I saw, keep going back to Conor, I'm such a fan of him, but I saw him on another UFC video. He, as the day before the weigh-in, he was wearing all these extra layers of clothes, and he was like sweating so much, and I think he was desperately trying to get the weight off. So how much weight do you have to get off, like in a normal?
It varies depending on what my natural weight is around about 84 kilograms. So I don't know. Normally I only have to cut about 4 kilograms to make under 80. But for example, at the end of year 12, I'd put on a fair bit of weight due to not having done much sport or activity
for a year.
So I had to lose about, I think I arrived in Spain, and about 3 or 4 days before the competition, I had to lose 3 kilos. So that was a bit of a challenge, but I got there in the end, which was, good.
Obviously. So did you go back to kind of like the diet? Like, because if you're doing a diet thing, you'd have to be careful though, because you're in another country.
Yeah, well, I feel like too that it seems to just fall off in the end of the last couple of days. All of a sudden, I dropped a lot of weight, and whether that was nerves or whatnot, but essentially my diet consisted of, I would have a relatively large breakfast, or a healthy breakfast, because that's obviously the most important meal of the day, and that gets you going. But then I'd skip lunch, and I'd have a salad for lunch, and I'd skip dinner, and that'd be my regime. But obviously then you've got to be careful, because once you've weighed in, you've got to pack his body again with all these nutrients, and you've got to get yourself right.
Got to hydrate, yeah.
Because I've had times before when I've had to cut weight to make my fighting weight, and I've had low blood sugar, etc. at competitions. So I haven't been feeling. Yeah. I've been fatiguing very quickly in a fight, and so there's a fine balance between your diet and how you rehydrate and
Yeah, it's such a big part of fighting. Just making sure. Yeah, first you kind of have to. Well, not dehydrate, but you've got to be disciplined, as you said, before the fight. And then afterwards, but when you do so you have like a proper weigh-in as well?
Yeah, it's an official weigh-in, so you'll go in with your player card and your number, and you'd step on the scales, and they'll look at the weight, and they'll match it up, make sure you're correctly in your weight division, otherwise you're disqualified, effectively.
You can't fight.
You can't fight if you're over your weight. So it's a very serious part of it, because you need to make weight.
Yeah.
Especially at high competitions where you've put a lot of time and effort into it. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to fight, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So you said you fight at 80...
Under 80 kilos.
Under 80 kilos. So what's the UFC equivalent of that?
I think it's a middleweight.
Middleweight.
The middleweight category.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure what it is in pounds, but so it's a Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva.
Yeah, so that's
division.
Yeah. So is that... Do you feel comfortable in that division?
I do. It's a tough division to be successful in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess any division is a tough division to be successful in, but looking at athletes, it seems to be where power and speed are both combined, whereas once you start getting heavier, it becomes the speed declines.
Yeah.
Whilst the height and reach maximizes.
Yeah.
So it becomes harder that way, but also easier to get inside, and you're not dealing with fast athletes. Whereas Underwoods, you've got the reach advantage, and you're you've got the power advantage as well, significantly. So you can control a fight a lot better. But whereas in that division, it seems that they both meet, and a lot of the athletes have a very, very fast. They're very quick, and they're also very powerful, so it's hard to...
Yeah, I'd imagine in Taekwondo especially that reach would be...
Reach is important.
Yeah.
It depends. You got to be able to utilise it like anything. It's all about a strategy, but it is very handy to have on your side.
Uh-huh. And so how often would you train for a major competition?
For a major competition, we'd be looking at probably 6 to 7 times a week, and it's an hour and a half. So there's not much time off. Up to a couple of hours per session, and they vary. So we'll do a lot of we'll do like a skills based session, where we'll work on fine tuning our skills and fighting scenarios as well, so different situations. And then we'll have 1 or 2 where it's purely fight simulation. So we'll go and we'll treat the day like a competition day. We'll come in and prepare ourselves and simulate a match day environment. And then we've also got obviously fitness sessions just to really push us to the limit and make sure that our fitness is up there and ready for the fight, pretty much, to get through for a few fights.
And I'd imagine that, because you have to be very disciplined, and when you're doing those sparring sessions, like, do you really try to? Is it because I assume you would be fighting with like people in your club, like kind of like friends and colleagues? Do you go all out, or?
There's always a part of you that probably holds back a bit, but we hit hard to the body.
Because you wear
we wear a protective shield and head guard and arm guards and shin guards.
But don't you wear some protective gear in the fight as well?
We do, yeah. So it's a fully protected fight, so we wear the same stuff. But we obviously we're not going to try and knock each other out the last thing we want is an injury before the competition that would inhibit our training regime, or our competition would probably all of a sudden that vanishes and you got to go through rehab. So
I think in a way it's a you have to be careful about it, but it is an inevitable part of sport as well. You were telling me that you had an ankle injury sustained in training, was it?
It was actually, of all things, it was in futsal.
Oh, really?
Just for a bit of, I play futsal for fun, and I fractured my ankle one game, and all of a sudden, futsal, so of all things, and all of a sudden I missed a couple of competitions due to that, and I had to go through and recover, rehab.
Yeah, I mean futsal. Yeah, people think futsal's quite an easy game, but you have to. It's a bit like basketball. You know, you have to run up and back, or if you're taking it seriously, you have to do, different turns. You have to be agile. How exactly did you hurt your ankle in futsal?
I was essentially getting to the ball, and it was, a 50-50 contest with another person, and we both got to the ball at the same time, and he fell over onto my ankle pretty much, and it rolled underneath, and his body weight sort of came down on that, and it all of a sudden it just sort of fractured and did a couple of ligaments. So.
And then the recovery time, you're out for 2 months.
Yeah, about 2 months it was, I think.
So what was the kind of recovery regime? Because you've been injured before, so you kind of know.
Yeah, I've had a few injuries in the past. Essentially, you start off very slow. Obviously, don't do anything. Just keep it. Get the swelling down. Rest, ice compression, elevation, and all that. But you go. Well, I mean, I was seeing the physio, and she was just basically just saying, don't do anything, just rest it for X amount of time. I think it was about a month, and then for another month and a half, I was building strength back up into it slowly. So that trying to limit, the damage done, and hopefully it will never happen again. But we'll never know.
Because when I was doing football in the junior years, I used to have a lot of calf problems, so like cramps, strains. I had growth plate issues as well in my knee, and I'd have to go to the physio and do some things there. It's such a sad part of sport. Like not necessarily calf strains and everything, but like more like. Ankle injuries, ACL injuries are the
I've seen killer. A few of my friends have had ACL injuries in the past.
Like in Taekwondo.
Yeah, one of my friends, she tore her ACL in one, so she was out for over 12 months, which was pretty hard to see.
Why does it take? I don't understand why it takes so long.
Because you need a complete knee reconstruction. So and then it's from there. I mean, it's a long time without putting any weight on it, no walking, and then it takes a long time to build up strength back into that region. Yeah. Even so, it's still susceptible to occur again. So you see a lot of footy players who do it multiple times.
Because there's two options, I think. One is to have a full reconstruction, which takes 12 months, and there's another one, which is a synthetic graft, which you can have. It gets you back in like a couple of months or something. Something like football players like Nick Malcheski, David Roden have done that. But you would think, something like that, you'd probably go with the full reconstruction. Unless you were fighting like an important tournament coming up, you might want a synthetic graft or something like that. One thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you find the travel?
Oh, I love the travel. I mean, it's always hard when you go to places such as America, and there's all this unhealthy food around, and you've got to be disciplined in what you eat. But that's part of the reason I do it. I love the travel, and we always have a bit of downtime, a lot of downtime. I mean, we'll do the competition or in a training camp or something, but we experience the culture, and we go and do a lot of things that we see a lot of things, and I love that part of it.
How did you find Disney World? Did you go to?
I've done a Disney World and Disneyland actually in Los Angeles and Orlando. So both of those are always quite fun. I always like a theme park. Yeah.
So is it the equivalent of like a what are those themes for parks called in Queensland? So
like a movie world.
Yeah, or not really? Is it a lot more?
It's much bigger. In particular, the Orlando one. Mm-hmm. That is just massive. They've got all these different worlds and places.
The Harry Potter one?
That's at Universal Studios in Orlando. I've been there. Yeah, so I love that. Being a fan of Harry Potter, of course. Yeah. And just seeing, how well they've done the whole thing. And just, it's like you're actually, on set or you're in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You're at Hogwarts.
I actually did a project on this, funnily enough, for my university assignment. And I basically just researched. I never went there, but I researched it on the internet, and I saw like all. You gave me a YouTube video on Facebook, which was they took you through like a virtual tour of the Hogwarts Castle, and it was really cool. Did it kind of replicate the Harry Potter world as seen in the movies?
As seen in the movies, yes, more so than the books. With that, I did that. That was a ride. It was phenomenal, just being sort of like you're flying through Hogwarts, and there's just all these scenes from the movies coming and happening, and it's just the technology is fantastic that they've implemented.
So when you're traveling through the Hogwarts Castle, are you like, is it like an actual? Do you get to like hop off the like? What do you actually ride in?
It's like I'd call it almost a chairlift. And it's supposed to simulate like you're flying on, whether it be a broom or whatever. But like and you get this strange feeling like you're actually flying through the air. And
really,
it's one of those things. It's just the technology they've used to make you feel like you're actually there is fantastic. It's like those 4D movies, there's like you feel everything there. So yeah, I loved it.
And they also have Diagon Alley as well. Did you do the one where did you go into the wand shop?
The Diagon Alley wasn't actually there. They were still building it when I was there. Okay. So unfortunately, I missed that. They had Hogsmeade, so I went to Hogsmeade, but Diagon Alley was just about to be opened when I was there. So unfortunately, I missed out.
For people who don't know, I think Hogsmeade, I believe, is a bar.
Hogsmeade's the village.
Village, sorry.
That's near the castle.
Oh, okay.
The Three Broomsticks was the bar that they went there, and that was they have that there. It's like a little eatery food place with like food and stuff.
Did you drink butterbeer?
Or was they had some there, and it in like it was like a frozen drink almost, like that's what they envisaged it as, but it wasn't very nice at all.
It wasn't,
to be quite honest. No.
I did my research project on this. Apparently, it sells pretty well, but I guess like if it's a Harry Potter Pacific,
it's the aesthetics of it pretty much.
Yeah.
People see it and they go, "Oh, it looks nice," and it's butterbeer. They get a description of it in the movie, but it's, to be quite honest, quite far from what they've said in the book.
Yeah,
they've quoted it being so. Yeah.
What did it taste like? What?
Oh, it was like a creamy sort of frozen Coke, but it wasn't. I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah. To be quite honest. So yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of it and I threw the rest out.
Yeah. And so what else is there at the Harry Potter world? Like, do you get to like can you buy like can you purchase like actual like equipment from the?
You can buy. Yeah, they've got all the inflated prices of all these touristy attractions and things. So you can buy wands, and you can go to the lolly shop there. I forgot what it's called, but Honey Jukes or something.
Yeah, Honey Jukes. Yeah.
And they've got all the Birdie Bots beans and all this sort of stuff there. The magic frog thing. And you get like your wizard card in that and things. So they have everything sort of from that world. You got outfits and broomsticks and whatnot, cloaks, but and the people who work there dressed up like they dressed up in Hogwarts gear and stuff like that, and they have to take character of individuals who attend Hogwarts as
that's
such.
So good because it makes it
feels
really
more
immersive,
realistic as well. So yeah.
And so where would these people be placed? Like, would they be in like a Honeydukes workshop?
Yeah, they'll just be walking around helping, and they sell. They'll be selling, working the cash registers there and everything.
Yeah.
And, you'll go up and talk to them, and they pretty much take the character of Harry Potter.
Are they still in character when you talk? Did you go up to?
Yeah, you talk to them and they stay in character and everything.
So
when they're telling you to, when you're on a ride, for example, and they're making sure that you keep your wands away at all times and
Yeah.
everything, and it's just it's quite funny. So
I'd love to go there. And how about airplane travel? Like, are you scared of airplanes, or you don't really
I
mind
used to be as a younger kid, but having travelled on them a few times now, I'm pretty good with them.
What about the turbulence and stuff? Like, because even when I go to my family and I, we normally go to Queensland, and I'm not a big fan of airplanes. Just like the turbulence when you're in the clouds and like just all that. I could only imagine what it'd be. But I guess like if you're going to like America, like how far is that?
It's about a 15-hour plane ride to Los Angeles, and then if you're going across, it's another 5 hours across the country to New York.
So you're not
the east side.
Mm-hmm. So you're not like disturbed by the turbulence at all, or?
Oh, there's sometimes you are, depending on how severe it is. So there's been some times where the plane's dropped a fair few times, and you think, wow, like we you the worst crosses your mind, but that's just part and parcel of travel.
Fear. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of like airplanes are in a way safer than like actual cars.
They are.
Figures,
Well, statistically speaking, I think they are safer than travelling by car. So
yeah, it would be as well, because it's hardly any traffic.
It's rarely an incident.
Yeah, but I guess the flip side to that is if there's a plane accident, because there were plane accidents last year. There were two very big ones.
The Malaysia
Airlines, and there were two. And
there's one in Europe.
Did they
over Russia?
Have they found both?
I think they found a lot of the Malaysia one. I think they found. The other one was just shot down, so they found a lot of.
Yeah, that's right. By Ukraine rebels.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, and on another topic, so I forget who. I think it's your uncle grandfather, but basically one of your family relatives is a premiership winning captain of Hawthorn, I believe.
That's right. So my dad's uncle, so my great uncle, so he's my nana's brother, was Hawthorn's first premiership captain, Graham Arthur. So in 1961, he captained Hawthorn to their first ever flag. Wow. So which is so we're all Hawthorn supporters in my family. We're all born into it.
So, even your mother as well?
Yeah, mum's a Hawthorn supporter. So, I think she used to go for Collingwood, but as soon as she met Dad, and the family, she...
Oh, yeah. If you had that Hawthorn tradition.
She didn't really follow it much as a kid, but once you've been introduced to our family, it's pretty much you've got to be interested in footy. So.
I tell you what, it'd be a good time to be a Hawthorn supporter.
Oh, right now I'm loving it. So.
Yeah, three premierships in a row. Well, basically... They keep on saying 3, but really it's 4, because you won the premiership in 2008, was it?
We won, so 2008, but we've won 3 in a row. So that's the saying with that. So we've won 4 in the last whatever years,
Yeah.
I think 9 years, 4 in 9 years.
So what do you think? What makes them such a good side? Because when Buddy Franklin left, I was like, Roughhead's obviously a gun. Full forward, but I was like, who else are they going to put? But then all of a sudden you've got Roughhead playing a more
midfield,
more prominent role, more midfield. He can go back as well.
I think what Clarkson's done, the coach, he's implemented a viewpoint that you have to be versatile as a player. We send Jack Gunston down in the back line, so when we need him. So
and he's one of the most accurate shots at goal you will ever find in the NFL.
Yeah, so I think, and what Franklin leaving did was it freed us up, because I believe when we lost to Sydney in the 2012 grand final, and it seemed that we were too buddy conscious, they used to call it in the media, and we'd rely on Buddy Franklin too much to kick a bag of goals in order for us to win. And if they shut him down, then we had no one else to go to. As opposed to now, we've got so much more freedom in the forward line, and anyone can pop up. I mean, when you look at Bruce, Rioli, Piopolo, Roughhead, Gunston, it's a forward line that's very dangerous.
And what Yeah, and
and
it's
potent.
just, and especially like the versatility you just mentioned, like, Sam Mitchell, who's a gun midfielder, he can play backline very well.
I think Clarkson, now that I think he's getting a bit older now, Mitchell, I think he's about 32 or 33 years old,
Yeah.
so
I'll
I
tell you
don't
what-
think he can
yeah.
hold on to, he can play constantly in the midfield, and
yeah.
like the rigours of playing in the
Oh,
midfield are so taxing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Clarkson's put him in the back line where he uses the ball really well.
Oh yeah, both sides, left foot and right. But he hasn't, in terms of his level of performance. I mean, he's been rock solid. Like, he's formed, like, even with age. Like,
He seems to be getting even better. He doesn't look like slowing down. So.
Same with Hodge. He had like that into the captain of Hawthorn. He had that he had a few injuries when he was about 27, 28, and then he's kind of played some more.
He's come good now. It seems that the last few years he's had good pre-season under his belt, and he's been able to play consistent footy, and he leads the club.
Oh yeah, he just seems he led the international rules series as well when Australia went to Ireland. What do you think of that? Did you follow the international rules?
I didn't actually this year. I would have loved to have watched it, but I don't think it was on free-to-air television, to be quite frank. So I don't think I was able to. I saw some highlights here and there, but yeah.
I'm not sure. So do you think there's like a future for it? Because I think they want to get America involved.
Yeah, by the looks of things, I think there's a bit of a future in it. If they put up a performance like they did this coming one, I think it was a close game, and it was just a bit of fun. But
Ireland just got up, I think.
so. So, it's one of those things that I think has a bit of a future if they persist with it.
They're probably with the America, because I heard they're trying to get an American side involved, because we've obviously got American players in the AFL now. So we've got Jason Holmes from St Kilda, who's a ruckman. So I'm getting, because I guess they all come from like a basketball.
Yeah, a lot of them are college basketballers, it seems, who can't quite make the NBA. So they recruit them in footy. I mean, as athletic ruckmen.
How do you reckon LeBron James would go in the AFL? Do you reckon he would have a position, or not really? How tall is he?
He'd be about, I think he's about 6'6".
Yeah, so he can be a ruckman.
Yeah, he could be
pretty much.
But
yeah.
I think
it's trivial.
I struggled to see a lot of international players coming in. It's hard to pick up the game.
Oh yeah,
it seems.
One of the hardest games.
I think Irish players have an advantage. You look at some of the likes of from Brisbane, Piers Hanley and
Martin Clark from Collingwood as well.
They seem to be able to
pick it up
a lot quicker. Whether that's due to the Gaelic football, being similar to a degree.
Exactly.
But I think, having not been brought up with the footy in your hand, and coming from America, etc., you're going to struggle to pick up the game that quickly when you're playing with people who have been playing with it, for 20 odd years.
Yeah, exactly. And but they're probably, because I guess the AFL is becoming more endurance, more an athletically based sport now, because they train. It's similar to like any sport, like the discipline. Like when Graham Arthur was premiership captain, I don't think they would have been training as hard as
it wasn't as professional.
I think that's the right way to put it. Yeah.
I think with John Kennedy Senior was the coach of Hawthorn at the time, and he started. It seemed that they used to call them Kennedy's Commandos. And what he did was he implemented a hard training regime over pre-season, and that's what's mirrored nowadays. It seems to be that hard pre-season, get your fitness right up.
Yeah.
And apparently, I mean, I wasn't alive, obviously, but Hawthorn, we used to run over the top of people in that era.
When you were a step ahead.
We were a step ahead. So, and now the game's become more professional. I mean, Graham, he left Hawthorn at 28, 29 years old after playing 240 games because he was getting offered more money to play for Bendigo than he was at Hawthorn.
That's
so
interesting.
It was more of an amateur game back then. And, it's only been recently that, all this money's come into it and players are getting paid probably more as they should be for a full-time athlete.
Oh,
so.
yeah, definitely. It's such a hard game to play, like the tackling involved. the physicality involved. What position did Graham Arthur?
He was, and back then they didn't have an inch. Or they had a bench, but they were substitutions, so it was similar to soccer. So he was a half forward flanker, and he would rotate into the midfield as well. So he played both in the midfield and on the half forward line.
They played pretty rough back then.
They used to, they did. They used to get in a few scuffles, and they used to throw a few punches. I think.
Yeah, you see it a lot now with. You still see it, like, you know, not obviously as frequently, but like the Hawthorn and Essendon rivalries. There's been a couple of
there's been some scraps in there, and I like it. It's part of the game, and you know, they do pick up a lot of people. The tribunal. I mean, it's a trivial. I think some of the decisions that the tribunal's made in the past few years have been quite controversial, but you know, physicality is a part of the game, and I don't think they should muck around with that too much. I understand taking out, you know, the action of hitting players behind the play and off the ball. Yeah. But a lot of the bumping, and it's lessened the game in my view a little bit. So.
It has, yeah. And so with Graham, so he took up a position in Bendigo. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so he finished his career up there. He was captain coach, I think, of Bendigo, just because they were offering more money to play there than at Hawthorn in the VFL. Yeah, because
that's a good point, because back then the AFL was known as the VFL, and it was only until I think it was 1990 when they transitioned from the AFL. From VFL to the AFL, and your father was quite successful as well. He played forward.
Yeah, apparently so. He used to play. Well, he played in a few positions. He in year 12 at De La Salle, he was playing. Well, he was year 11 at the time and playing in the seniors there, and he played full back for the first 18. But then when he was playing under 19s, he used to play on the ball and up forward, so he could go anywhere really, by the sounds of it. Yeah. He loved the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also have a relative. Apparently he's my second or third cousin. I've never met him before, but Tom Liberatore. I'm related to Tony Liberatore.
The doggies,
Tom Liberatore, yeah. Tony Liberatore actually won a Brownlow medal. Never a premiership though, and I guess it'd be so good, because I remember one time, because we went to the same primary school. Graham Arthur came in for
I brought him in for almost a show and tell type thing.
What grade was that?
I think it was about grade 3 or 4, and I think he brought in the Premiership Cup, and all the class got to hold it and have a look at the Premiership.
So how did he get hold of the Premiership Cup? Does he own it?
No. It's at the club, but he worked at the club. And but he can. I mean, he being captain of that team. He can go in and I've been lucky enough to see it a few times, and I've got special access around the club on the odd occasion. So it's really quite nice.
I remember asking him a question. It was how did he get scouted into the AFL? I forgot what his answer was. But it's way different now. Like, they've got the NAB AFL Draft. Braden Maynard, who went to our school from De La Salle, he got drafted at pick 30 to Collingwood. He's played 12 games or something.
Yeah, he seems to have done all right. So yeah. But back then though, they used to have it used to be a zonal process. So you would be whatever area you lived in was a zone for a club, and they'd be able to scout and draft effectively out of that region. So, for example, where we are living now around that Malvern, Glen Iris area was a Richmond zone. So back then, had there not been a draft, we would have been picked up by Richmond. Yeah, absolutely. And did they have an actual, or you might not know, but did they have an actual a draft system in place, or was it more just scouting? There was no draft system at all, so they used to just almost effectively just scout players.
So where was Graham Arthur? Do you know how he got recruited to Hawthorn?
He was in he was living in Bendigo at the time, so he was playing with the Bendigo seniors, I think, as a 16, 17-year-old. So as a young kid, he was playing in the highest level there. and I think there were a few clubs after him at the time. So he was there was Hawthorn, Carlton, and I think there was whether Footscray or one of those sides I think was interested in him. There was about 3 clubs chasing him, and the story goes, I believe, that whilst Carlton looked like the likely destination, Hawthorn came up and brought his mum flowers. And
really?
Gave him like whether it was a box of chocolates or something as well, and his mum decided that he would go to Hawthorn. So
oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I guess if you want a player, then you try to win them over. I get like Carlton was quite a strong team back in the 1960s.
They were, I think they although much stronger than Hawthorn was at the time. There was a mid-1950s when he got picked up, and then they made the finals for the first time in the club's history in 1957 or 58, and then they won the flag in 61. So
that's pretty awesome. So one thing I can see quite clearly is that sports kind of like ingrained in your family.
It's a big part of our lives,
Yeah. Because you not only do like in the past, you've not only done Taekwondo, you've also done tennis as well. What other sports have you?
I did swimming for a long time. Footy.
Mm-hmm.
And tennis were probably, as well as Taekwondo, were my sports of choice. So
when I was younger, I don't indulge in sports anymore, at least actively. I used to do soccer. I used to do cricket, actually. I used to be... Oh, I don't want to brag or anything. I used to be all right at cricket. I did football. We played at the same club. I actually had Gary Lyon as my
coach. I remember that
football coach, which was quite fun. Sometimes he wouldn't actually make it to. It was kind of like under 12s, under 11s. I forgot what it was. Sometimes he couldn't actually make it to training because he had like a footy show, the footy show commitment. You know, he's on the footy show. He made a joke once to our team that he'd try and get us all on the footy show one day, but I don't think he really cares anymore. And on another topic, you went to the ACDC concert recently.
Yeah, they came down to Melbourne, and I've been brought up. My dad loves them, and I went and saw them when they last came out in, I think it was 2010, 2011. And I love their music. So it was as soon as the ticket, I decided on Sunday night actually that I wanted to go, so I bought tickets Sunday night and went on the Tuesday.
Oh yeah,
to the
they were still available.
They were because they announced a second concert. So
that's what they normally do.
Night, but they still had a few tickets there, so I went with a mate on the ground there, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So with ACDC though, like do they replace the band members? Because
they have to a degree. So, well, Bon Scott, who was the original lead singer, died in 1980, and so they replaced him with Brian Johnson, who's been with the band ever since, and most recently Malcolm Young, who was the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah,
rhythm
he was
guitarist.
good.
He had he's got dementia, so he can't remember the songs anymore.
He's not actually passed away. He's just
he's just got so he's unable to play now. So they've got his nephew,
guitar.
Stevie Young.
Oh, does he play guitar?
He plays the rhythm guitar now. So they've replaced him with who filled in for him a bit earlier as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love one of the things that grabs my attention about ACDC is just the guitar chords, like Thunderstruck. It's just like...
Oh, they've got some very good songs, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of good songs, yeah. And we obviously went to the Coldplay concert as well. That was actually my first ever concert I went to. We didn't have quite good seats. We were
up the top, yeah.
Yeah, we were right up the top. It was still good though. It was at Etihad Stadium. What stadium was the ACDC?
That was also at Etihad Stadium, yeah. So it was the same stadium.
And the UFC event
was also at Etihad, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gone. Yeah, were they in a short time frame, like from each other? Like
not particularly.
No, it was a couple of weeks or more.
Yeah, the UFC I think was about a month before
Oh,
ACDC.
okay. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually had to, in the UFC event, they actually had to borrow LEDs, which the lights from Taylor Swift, because they didn't have enough for the actual event because everyone else was coming down. What do you think of the actual fights in the UFC? So obviously Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey. That was a surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
To be quite honest, a lot of people, I mean, I'm not saying I picked it, but like I was expecting it to be a lot closer than most people thought. A lot of people were expecting just a quick knockout that Holly had no chance at all. But
Yeah.
she's a 19-time, boxing world champion. So she's got the pedigree,
Yeah,
and Ronda didn't fight to her strengths.
Oh, nah.
I mean, it was inevitable almost in the end. She got dominated.
I mean, her coach at the end of the first round was saying, keep doing what you're doing, even though she was getting absolutely dominated standing up. So with Taekwondo, do you have breaks in between rounds? Do you have like coaches coming up to you?
Yeah, so you've got your coach who sits behind in your corner, obviously, or your end of the mats. And they were always talking to you throughout the fight, like in the UFC. They're just like always giving you advice. But Taekwondo works. There's 3 2-minute rounds, and there's a 30-second, I think, or a minute break in between. I think it might even be a minute break in between each round. So your coach gives you feedback at the end of each round.
I'd imagine that even though it's 2 minutes per round, that it's still pretty brutal. Like, or
it's
not brutal,
very physically
but
taxing.
Physically taxing, yeah.
Because you're constantly moving and bouncing, so your calves and your legs take a big hit physically, and you fatigue quite easily, which is surprising. A lot of people look at it and they think it's quite easy. So yeah, it's one of those things that unless you're doing it, you don't understand or appreciate the amount of effort and work that's required to sort of keep yourself going. Yeah.
Have you ever had an issue with the coach, or is it normally you just...
No, me and my coach have always got along. I've got 3... Well, my head instructors, they're my head instructors at the club, and they're fantastic people. And we've been on trips together, and we get along very well. And my coach has always, driven me. My main coach, he helps me fight at my very best, but he's hard, but in a good way.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
and he's very driven by our endeavour to do well. And we get along very well, and he comes out with plans and strategies for us to work with in the fight, and he knows how I fight, so it's quite good. Yeah.
And I guess, you can relate that to wider sports as well, like Jose Mourinho as well. At the moment, he is the manager of Chelsea. They're not going too well. I think they're outside the top 10 in the EPL.
Yeah, they're on the lower half of the table.
But he's got a really good relationship with these players. But at the moment, it's just not working for him. Obviously Liverpool, the team you support, they got Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah,
he seems like a good character.
So far, we've under him, we've done pretty well.
Yeah,
it seems. So
you beat Man City
and Chelsea and Man City. So, which was good results.
And the team I go for, Man U, we got knocked out of the Champions League. So that wasn't too good.
No, not at all. So now they'll be mixing it with Liverpool in the Europa League.
It's interesting now, though, in the Europa League. Is Liverpool in the Europa League?
Yeah.
Are they? Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting, because Liverpool used to dominate, back in the day.
There was a time when they were... Now, the last few years, they've really dropped off. I think they won the Champions League in 2005, and they made the final again in 2007. However, they've been struggling. There was that year we had a couple of years back with Suarez, and we came close, but they didn't quite get there.
But Brendan Rodgers, I was actually, I didn't think he deserved to be sacked. I don't know.
It's a tough call. He has proven, but any sport,
he could have won the EPL title.
It's the same. Yeah. It's same with any sport. The coach always takes the blame first and foremost, and if results aren't going the club's way, then
you let them go.
Basically, they're at the forefront of.
Because I know David Moyes from Man U lasted a year. I felt sorry for him because some good players left, like Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, like some like proper good. Oh, actually no, they were still around, but it was their last year at Man U, and they were kind of not at their peak. It's kind of hard though, coming from Everton to a huge club like Man U, like the expectation and
the pressure's increased dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that was a really good podcast. That was the first one we've done in studio, so I'd just like to thank you, Matthew.
No worries. Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, for appearing on the second podcast of Jono Talks. And I'm trying to get an introduction going, which I'll try and get for the next podcast. But until then, see you later.